This is Gemara and Eruvin Daf Lamed Dalet. Of course, the learning b'chei Shel is sponsored as Chus for Hashem Shan Teva Bas Esther, as well as Chus Nishmas Vasir Zol Basar Meir. Of course, Olachelim Midemir Ben Yakir Menu Ben Fei Cham Ram Chaim Itchaim Ben Tzayir Shalom Tziv Ben Yizid Osar Bas Knendel Ita Bas Yim Bas Chaysar Yizud Chaim Ben Sarasi Yisud Ben Mindel Azir Pinjus Aleya Shalom Bas Tambi Bashavik B'Shirchana Farlav Ben Ita Riva Daniel Ben Chana Rezel B'Seisha Chali Yisrael. We pick it up on the bottom of Lamed Gimel Lamed Beis. This is Shabbos is Daf, and we're in the middle of a little bit of a complicated discussion, and I hope that by going through the brisa again, which is going to lead to a second teretz right now, will give a little more clarity on yesterday's daf, and thereby bring us straight into today's daf. So really holding the bottom of the Gimel Medbeis, 7 lines on the bottom, Rav Yirmiyah Omar. For Rav Yirmiyah is coming to explain the brisa. So let's just peek back, and no one's looking in their Gemaras. Let's just peek back to Lamed Gimel Amud Aleph. Over here we had a brisa. Let's just run through the brisa one more time to get clarity, and I think it'll be a nice picture over here. So the brisa over here, about 7 lines down, taught us that Nasnai be'ilan lamal me'asar t'vachim in miruveir lamata yisar t'vachim miruveir va'asar litla b'seich va'asar litla. You're not allowed to take it. That was a different din. B'seich shleisha mutlatay. Now Nasna bekalkala. The brisa taught us that when you put this eruv inside a basket, v'tali be'ilan, then I feel lamal me'asar t'vachim miruveir v'revi v'chamayim no. So what was going on over here? This is the point that we're trying to figure out. This non-slip kalkala. The first part of the brisa taught us over 10, no good eruv. Under 10, lamal me'asar t'vachim, no good eruv. Lamata me'asar t'vachim, good eruv. Very simply, we know that many times because you know Rosh Hashanah, the eruv is going to be next to you during Ben Hashmash Shitas Rebbe. You let it go and get the eruv. Wonderful. But then it taught us if it's above 10 t'vachim, if it's in a basket, it's a good eruv. Well, what in the world's going on over here? So Gemara try to figure out, what are we talking about? How big is the tree? Is the tree 4? Is the tree, if the tree is not 4, it's a makam tur. It should always be a good eruv. If the tree is yes 4, what does the basket help you? And therefore the Gemara went on to the first teretz. This is a quick chazar right now. The Gemara went on to the first teretz that Ravina taught us, that was the bottom over here, Lamed Gimel Lamed Aleph, that what's going on, the seifa there was not 4, but the basket completed it to 4. And then we said we have to go with the opinion of Rav Meir that says chaykin lahashlim, and the opinion of Rav Yehuda that says whenever something is 10 tefachim tall, then you need it to be 4 tefachim to be a makayim chashiv. And that's the reason why it's going to be good eruv. Again, it is above 4, but it's on a tree that is less than 4. So the tree should seemingly be a makayim tur, but the basket is 2 and the tree is 2. You put the two things together, chaykin lahashlim, that makes it into 4. And now, says Rav Yehuda, if it's above 10 tefachim, then it's going to be a good eruv because now it's sitting in a makim chashiv. Today comes along Rav Yirmiyah, and Rav Yirmiyah says, I have a different teretz how we can explain the brisa, why the basket will make it good even if it's 4 tefachim. Says Rav Yirmiyah, because the kasha of the Gemara was that if it's 4 tefachim, then what is it helping in the basket? Says Rav Yirmiyah, now we pick up the new Gemara, Shiny kalkala hoyel v'yachlan ataisel avila teichasara. The reason is the tree is 4 tefachim. If the tree is 4 tefachim, it's its own rishus. If it's 4 tefachim and it's above 10 tefachim, it's a rishus yachid. How are you and Rishus Harabim getting that eruv? How is it a good eruv? Says Rav Yirmiyah, yachal in taisai, you could tilt it down and you could bring it into your rishus. Very simply, what that means is it's sitting inside that basket that we saw many pictures. We're going to hold the pictures because we have a large agenda today. We'll have more pictures in a moment. But when it's in the basket, basically you tilt the basket. Now the basket was above 10 tefachim. When you tilt it, now the basket comes below 10 tefachim. Now the eruv comes into the Carmelis rishus. You are in Rishus Harabim and you're able to get it from the Carmelis. Bein hashmashis with the din of Rabbi that you're able to get something bein hashmashis. Yosef Rababa of Carmel Shemaitza. Rababa said this din of Rav Yirmiyah that you can tilt the basket. This is going to be a site now. We're going to spend the next Amud trying to see whether it stands the test of time. The idea, the foundation of Rav Yirmiyah's din is that we're able to say yachol. A potential is enough. You don't necessarily have to have the eruv. Right now you're in Rishus Harabim. The eruv is in a basket above 10 tefachim in a completely different rishus. So how do you have a good eruv? Says Rav Yirmiyah, because you have a potential to get the eruv. How do you have a potential to get the eruv? If you tilt the basket, now the eruv will automatically somehow be in your Carmelis because it goes below 10. Once it's below 10, you and Rishus Harabim could get it in Hashmashit. So the potential to get an eruv is enough. So that's the din that Rav Papa said. And came along Rav Bar Shava, and he said, Rav Bar Shava, Rav Papa, Keturu Aisep. How do you do that? And again, this is a brisa that is discussing a new concept. A brisa discussing a yontif in the Shabbos. We're actually going to have a lot of these coming up, so it's very apropos. Rosh Hashanah is, I think, the first day of Shabbos. I think Sukkot is the first day of Shabbos. So over here we discuss how do you make an eruv when it's yontif into Shabbos. The simple case over here, Rashi says, is yontif is Friday going into Shabbos, and you need to make this eruv techumin both be able to walk on Friday on yontif and on Shabbos. So what do you do now? You bring the Erev there on the first day. Again, it's not first day, second day Yontif. This is first day, and the second day is going to be Shabbos. So Yontif is Friday, Shabbos is Shabbos. So Malicha B'Rishon is when? Thursday night as Yontif begins, going into Friday. Umachshich alav. And you stay there bein hashmashis. We know bein hashmashis when you're kind of shvisa, when the Erev goes into effect. So you stay there during bein hashmashis, and then what do? V'naitlai. And then you take the Erev with you, ubalai. And you take it with you and you bring the Erev back home with you. Again, you stay there bein hashmashis. You're a kind of shvisa. This is my area. I have my wine. I got my food. This is called my dwelling place. And then I go back home with the Erev. Parenthetically, Rashi points out, we're obviously not talking about the person himself. We're talking about a shliach, because the person himself wouldn't need to actually bring the bottle of wine. He himself, by you being there bein hashmashis, is enough. But if it's a shliach, then the shliach has to bring the wine, bring the food, etc. That's the case. Says the Gemara, Ubaloi b'sheni. And you go home. Again, the second night. What's the second night? This is Friday night going into Shabbos. Again, you hang out there on Friday night to be kind of shvisa, to create this as your place for Shabbos. And now now you eat the Erev. And you go back home. Why are you eating the Erev? Because you can't carry the Erev back home because it's Shabbos and you can't carry on Shabbos. That is the end of the Brisa. Just one very important Rashi, just in the contextual over here. Rashi over here in the last line says, Rashi's like pointing out, like, why do we find such a funny brisa? We're talking about a brisa when it's Friday into Shabbos. We're talking about that you made the Erev on the first day and you brought it back home. You made the Erev on the second day and you ate it there. And now we're about to ask a question on that we'll get to in a moment. But Rashi's bothered. Why are we talking about such a funny case? So Rashi just says a very interesting idea. Mishum deloy tanan b'mishnah achritay. There's no other Mishnah, says Rashi, that speaks explicitly about bringing the Erev somewhere, like this Brisa, like this Mishnah, and that's why we quoted this Mishnah of a Friday into Shabbos. Okay, so what's the question? What's Rav Shva bothered by? Moving along to Lamed today's daf, says Rav Shva, what is the reason why? The first night, you're going there, you come back home. The second night, Friday night, you're going there, eating there. Amai. Nema, why don't we just say, since you theoretically could have gone there, it's enough. Even though you didn't actually go there, it's as if you went. You, Rabbi Yirmiyah, just taught us a yesait. When it's in the basket above 10 tvachim, it's good Erev. Why? Because theoretically you could tilt it down and get the Erev. So why don't we say the same thing here? Why are we making the guy crazy going out of the tchum, coming back in? Going out, coming back in. Why don't we say, since you could theoretically get there, that's enough? That is Rav Shva's question on this idea of Rav Yirmiyah, that potential, that the yechiles, that the ability to go and do something is enough. Amar Rav Zira responds, you're right. Really, Rav Yirmiyah would agree you didn't have to go there. So why did the Mishnah require you to go there? Because of this year, when Shabbos is day one and Yontif is Sunday, Sukkot Shabbos is day one, Yontif is Sunday, in that case, do you have the potential to get the Erev there on Motzei Shabbos? No, because you can't carry on Shabbos. So in that case, one might come and think, if one is a normal year, is able to sit home on Friday and say, since I could go at the end of the city and I could bring wine there and I could stay there being a shmashais, it's enough and it's considered as if I did it, then what might someone come do? Someone might come in a year like this year where Shabbos is day one, when you're not able to go there because in Shabbos you can't bring the bottle of wine there. Someone might think you're able to, so we made a gezerah every year, go and bring the Erev there because of a year like this, and that's why Rav Yirmiyah so far, says Rav Zira, stands the test of time. Hey, so the Gemara is another question. Someone wants to dwell in Rosh Hashanah. So now you have to put your Erev somewhere. You got to be kind of shvis. You got to make this your area. So what do? You take your bottle of wine, you put it on the wall. If you put it on the wall below 10 tfachim, it's a wonderful Erev. Why is it a wonderful Erev? Because Rosh Hashanah goes up until 10 tfachim. So now you and the Erev are in the same Rishos, and you can theoretically get it, and it's a good Erev. If it's above 10 tfachim, then it's not a good Erev. Why? Because above 10 tfachim is no longer Rosh Hashanah. Above 10 tfachim is Rosh Hashanah, and therefore it's no good. We'll read the Brisa as always, and then we'll show the pictures. Let's say someone wants to dwell at the top of a bird coop. That's where he's kind of shvisa. Or on the top of a tower, the top of a bookcase, as we'll see in a moment. Then, again, so you're living on top of the bird coop. Now it's the opposite. If the Erev is above 10 tfachim, Erev. Very simply, why? Because you are on top of a bookcase. Let's just envision a bookcase. You're sitting atop a bookcase. Why? Don't ask questions. That's where you're dwelling. You're dwelling above 10 tvachim. So now, if the Eruv is as well above 10 tvachim, then it's a good Eruv. Because why? Because then the Eruv is going to be down below in Rosh Hashanah, and you're up top in Rosh Hashanah. That is the end of this brisa. Before we ask the Gemara's question, let's just get clarity through the pictures over here. This is a picture of the first part of the brisa, as you see so beautifully over here. And actually, I'll try to start reading the numbers of the pictures. Anyone who's following along the Coalition picture book, you'll be able to follow along, even if you don't see the pictures. This is picture 475 that you see over here very clearly that if it's under 10 tefachim, the Eruv is inside the wall. You see over here, they actually label it as a Carmelis, but we know that the whole Eruv is kind of bein hashmashas, and you'll be able to go and get it. Whereas if it's above 10 tefachim, then it's being Rosh Hashanah, and it's going to be no good. Here's the second case over here that you're being kind of your shvisa. You see the makim shvisa on top of this bird coop, and now you see the bottle of wine inside the bird coop so eloquently over here. So if it's under 10 tefachim, it's no good. It's in different rishos. If it's over 10 tefachim, then it is good. And the last case was in this bookcase over here in this migdal. That again, you're kind of shvisa on the top over here. If it's under 10 tefachim, it's no good. If it's over 10 tefachim, then it's going to be good. So what is the question of the Gemara? Back in the Gemara, says the Gemara, what is the reason why when it's below 10 tefachim, it's not a good Eruv? Why don't we say, Nema, Hoyel v'yachal in the Taisel, Avil, Teichasara, since you're able to tilt over the bookcase, tilt over the bird coop, and then what's going to happen? Then your makim shvisa, which was on top of the bird coop, now is going to fall onto the floor. And then you and the Eruv will be in the same rishos. So that should be enough. Again, let's build up a picture and then we'll explain. As you see over here, your makom shvisa was on top. So ask the Gemara, why don't we say, and again, this is picture 476, I believe, 477, why don't we say, that since you could tilt over the bookcase on Shabbos, then where does your makom shvisa go? Your makom shvisa now is down below in the Rosh Hashanah, and you see so beautifully in this picture, and the bottle of wine is in a karmelis under 10 tefachim, and therefore you could take it from the karmelis into Rosh Hashanah bein shemashes. So just like you, Rabbi Yirmiyah, taught us that you could tilt the basket and bring the Eruv from above 10 to below 10, why can't you remove your makom shvisa, move the place that you're living from above 10 to below 10, and thereby be able to have an Eruv on Rabbi Yirmiyah? Answers the Gemara, two answers. The first answer is that the bookcase doesn't move. Technical answer. You want to tilt over the bookcase. I'm sorry, it's nailed into the wall. You can't tilt it over. Teres number one. Rava Amar, teres number two. Even if it's not nailed in. On a very tall bookcase. Therefore, what? As soon as you tilt it a little bit, what's going to happen? It's going to leave your Dalet Amos. And therefore, it's going to leave your Dalet Amos. Therefore, you no longer have your makom shvisa. Let's pull up a picture, and then we'll explain. This is picture 479. Now you see over here that the bookcase is very tall, so your makom shvisa is on the top. Every person has 4 amos. You see over here the shadow. That is your makom shvisa within the 4 amos of the bookcase. Now, if you tilt over the bookcase, it's going to go outside of your 4 amos, so it's no longer within your makom shvisa. In the question of the Gemara, we assumed you could move your makom shvisa from above 10 tefachim to below 10 tefachim, but to move your makom shvisa outside of your own 4 amos, that you can't do. If anyone is bothered by why not, the Rishonim here do deal with this. Did see many different pshatim exactly in the mechanics. What is the difference? Why can we say just like you're allowed to move from Rosh Hashanah above 10 tefachim to Rosh Hashanah and below 10 tefachim? Maybe you're allowed to move even outside your makom shvisa. Okay, the Rishonim deal with that, but that's the teretz of the Gemara. Again, another technical reason why you don't even have the theoretical ability to move your makom shvisa in this case. Says the Gemara. 1 second, what's this case of the bird coop? If there's a window and a rope. Bring up the bottle of wine through the window. Answers the Mar, the less they kapsa masna. As you see here in the picture 480, as you see that basically, that if on the top of this bookcase or on the shebach or the bird coop, there's a little window on top where your makom shvisa is and there's a rope sticking down, so you can just pull up the wine straight through the rope, and then the wine will go from down below 10 tefachim from the karmelis into Rosh Hashanah without passing, into your Rosh Hashanah, without passing through Rosh Hashanah, which would be also derabanan, but it would be mutar ben hashmash. So that would work. Answers the Gemara, no, the case we're talking about is that you don't have the window and the rope. before we go into the new Gemara, if anyone on your own time, I'm not going to have time to do it right now, but Rashi in the bottom of the Amid here has a tremendous arichos and a totally different pshat of the Gemara. We're just going to pull up two pictures in case anyone doesn't have the pictures. Picture 41 over here, you see that Rashi in the second pshat, basically the basic idea is, and you can work it on your brain, is that Rashi says that in the case of the tower, the migdal, or in the case of the bird coop, it's also next to a wall. It's not that the wine, the ear was inside the bird coop or inside the tower like in the first pictures, but in this picture, like you see in front of you, it's that you are on top of the bird coop, you are on top of the bookcase, top of the migdal, and the wine is on the wall below or above 10. And here is another case. See, the wine is below or above 10 when you're in the migdal. And again, and this is where you see the window. And this maybe is one of the reasons why Rashi likes this pshat a little bit better. You see here that it goes through the window. Either way, that is the second pshat in Rashi. Someone can look in. Now let's continue straight into the new Gemara. Nasno bebar afilu amak me'ama v'chulu. We said in the Mishnah, if you put the Eruvin inside a pit, even 100 amas deep, it's a good amma. Says the Gemara, Hi bar, where is this pit? If the pit is in Rosh Hashanah, moving along to Lamed on my base, Pshita, it's Pasha. Why did the Mishnah have to teach us this din? Rosh Hashanah, Oile, Adar Rakia. Rosh Hashanah goes until the Rakia. So what is the reason why you had to teach us this din? I'm sorry, what is the reason you had to teach us this din that when it's Rosh Hashanah all the way down? Of course it works. Just like Rosh Hashanah goes all the way up, so too will go deep down. So what's the chiddush? Rosh Hashanah goes up ad infinitum. It also goes down ad infinitum. So what's the reason that? Says the Gemara, the reason is you're in Rosh Hashanah. Okay, so where do you want to dwell? If you're dwelling on top of the pit, on the outside of the lip of the pit, that's not going to work because you're in Rosh Hashanah and the pit's in Rosh Hashanah. So why is it going to work? The pit all the way deep down. Ilamata, and if you're being kind of your shvisa, you're dwelling inside the pit. Pshita, it's obvious. You're both sitting in one place. Says the Gemara, you're in the intermediary Yishas, just the Rabbanon. Then it's Kavin, it's just the Mala, and it should sound familiar. You want to dwell on top. The Rebbe in the Chiddush Mishnah is Rebbe, and that is the reason why you'll be able to get it from the Carmelist lip of the pit, from the ear of inside the pit, which is a Rishos Hayachid. Says the Mishnah, Lamedalad Amid Beis. Nosnai b'reish hakanai b'reish hakundis b'zman talush b'notes afilu gvoya kuf amba aris eirv. You put the eirv on top of a stick, on top of a reed. If the stick and the reed is detached from the ground, b'zman shu talush b'notes and it's stuck in the ground, afilu gvoya kuf amba, if it's 100 amba tall, haris eirv, it's a good eirv. Okay, seemingly a very simple din. Says Gemara, Ramalei, Ravad bar Masna Rava. Ravad bar Masna asked the following question to Rava. Talush v'no'atin. What's the obvious implication of our Mishnah? That when it's talush, when it's disconnected and it's standing in the ground, that's when it works. Loi talush v'no'at's loi. But if it's not disconnected, it's not going to work. Money. So who is that opinion that holds that it has to be disconnected, that this reed, that the stake cannot be connected to the ground? Rabbanani. Seemingly this is the opinion of the Rabbanan. The Amri. Kol davar shem misham shvos gazla ben hashmashais. And there's going to be an Issa de Rabbanan. If you want to see, Rashi over here speaks out that Avol Mechober Loi, the first Rashi in the Gemara, because if the reed was actually attached to the ground, that's called a tree, and therefore you're not going to be able to get the Eruv. So says the Gemara, seemingly who are we doing with? We're going to opinion the Rabbanan. The Rabbanan who holds you're not able to be over on a Shvos Ben Hashmashais, and therefore if it's attached to the ground, you're up the creek, you don't have an Eruv. Says the Gemara, 1 second. We all know what's coming over here. V'amar Reisha, we just said a moment ago. V'amar Reisha Rabbi. Reisha Rabbi, the Sefer Rabbanan, what's going on? The first Mishnah is Rabbi, the Sefer Mishnah is Rabbanan. Of course, Reisha Sefer doesn't mean within one Mishnah. It means back-to-back Mishnahs. Says the Gemara, why are you saying that? Amar Lei, so we responded again, this Ravad bar Masla to Rava, so Rava responded, Kvar Rami Lei Rami Rachama, Rav Chista, Rami Rachama already asked this to Rav Chista. V'shani Lei, no, Rav Chista answered. Reisha Rebbe, the Sefer Rabbanan. You're right, it is Reisha Rebbe and the Sefer Rabbanan, and therefore it's not a question. That is how Rav Chista answered, and Ravina came along, and what did he answer? Kula Rebbe, Ravina said, really, it's all the opinion of Rebbe. So if it's all the opinion of Rebbe, so why in the Mishnah we just quoted, did it say that the reed has to be detached? Well, according to Rebbe, it can be attached. Who cares? He can have to go up on a tree, Ben Hashmash, let it be over and Shvasim. The Sefer Gezer Shema Yiktam is a different reason. We're afraid that what might happen, Gezer Shema Yiktam, that you might come to over and Kaitzer. You might come to actually cut down the reed, which is an Isser De'araisa, Rashi says. The Malacha D'Mechayev Misham Kaitzer. And that's the reason why even Rebbe would agree it wouldn't work. And that is the That is the Gemara. Just to point out one question over here, let's just look at Rashi. We have 1 minute. Rashi says, what does that say? Because the reed is soft, maybe it's going to come off. When you take off the ear, it's going to crack. But as tree is hard, just I'll point out a little bit of a difficulty here. What's the Gemara talking about? Is the Gemara talking about that you're going to proactively, with das, go and cut the reed? Doesn't sound that way. It sounds like from Rashi, we're talking about a weak reed. The Eruv is sitting on top of this item, and we're afraid that when you come and take it off, on its own it's going to crack. If that's the case, it's not Nisa Deraisa. Of course, you shouldn't do that. It'll be a Psik Reisha. It sounds like be a Derabanan. A little bit difficult over here. Why exactly it's a Deraisa? Maybe it has to do with the fact that if you know what's going to happen, it's even a higher level. It's called a Maisa B'Yatayim. Okay, just a sidebar question. Let's continue the Gemara. Hopal Musa. There was an army unit. Dasal and Arda. They came to Arda. Go sit down in the reeds in the marsh. And tomorrow we'll be able to sit on it. They're going into the marsh. There's all these reeds. Go plant them down. So tomorrow we'll have benches. We said in our Mishnah that only when it's detached, not deconnected, but when it's attached, when it's connected, then it's not going to work. Over here, Rav Nachman are telling them these reeds are connected to the ground. Amarle Hasambu Zradin, talking about the hard ones, talking about these hard branches, and that's the reason why it's different. If you see in Rashi says, what's Zradin? Shahokshu Kvar, they're already hard, and that's why, and therefore they're already like a tree, and that's why it's a problem. And when do we say it's okay? Is when they're not hard, when they're still soft and they're like a vegetable, and therefore there's not going to be an issue. Says the Gemara, where do we see such a differentiation between whether the reeds are hard or soft? The time we see such differentiation, different types of branches and bushes. They're a type of tree. They're not klai karam. It's not a problem planting them with proximity to a vineyard. But a different Brisa says, what are these kanim? Sounds like on one hand it says they're yes klai karam. It sounds like on one hand they're vegetables, on one hand they're trees. What's going on over here? Are they min ilan or are they min yarek? Are they types of vegetation, types of trees? Is it an issue planting with the vineyard or not? Says the Gemara, Elish Maminos. What do we see? We see from the fact that there's a steer to these two Brises must be Kambas Rodin, Kamishain is run. The one is when it's soft, one is when it's hard. Shema Mina, and that's a conclusive proof. And the Gemara just concludes the Kida Min Yaraku. Is it true that this Kida is type of vegetation? About Tanam, we learned in the Mishnah, Ein Markivin Pagam, Al Gabe Kida Levana, that you're not allowed to do Markiv, you're not allowed to graft the Pagam on top of the Kida Levana. They shoot Yarik Vilan. So it sounds like the Kida Levana is not a Yarik, it's not a vegetable, it's an Elon. So Amar Papa, Kida L'chad, Kida Levana L'chad. Two different things. One is regular Kida, that's when I told you it's vegetation. One is Kida Levana, and that's where we see in this last Brisa, last Mishnah, that's going to be a type of tree. That is the two types of branches, when they're soft or when they're hard, and that is going to be the differentiation between whether we need them to be detached or whether it's okay if it's attached, and that's why Rav Nachman allowed his Talmidim to sit in Erev Shabbos, and come on Shabbos you can continue sitting on them. Let's begin the new Mishnah. Nasnu bebingnol va'avan hamateach harei ze'erev. You put your erev in a tower and in a closet, and you lost the key. You can't get your erev. Says the Tanakama, harei ze'erev, it's still good erev. Rav Lazar Aimer, Rav Lazar is the opposite extreme. The Tanakama said it's a good erev even without the key. Rav Lazar says if you don't know where the key is, you don't know that the key is exactly there, that's not a good erev. Says the Gemara Vamai, what is the reason that according to the Tanakama it's a good erev? If you can't get to your erev, then it's just like me being here, my erev's in China. I don't know China. Me being here, my erev's in Eretz Yisrael. It doesn't work. It's in two different places. Ravu Shmuel Damri Tavayu Hacha b'Migdal Shalavan Naskinan. We're dealing with a tower. We're dealing with a closet of bricks. Again, basically the question of the Gemara was, how can you tell me it's a good erev if I don't have the key? I can't get to my erev. The whole point of the erev is that I'm kind of shvisa. I make this into my house, my dwelling place. I have food over here, but if I can't get to the food, how's it going to work? Says the Gemara, says Rav Shmuel b'Migdal Shalavan Maskina. We're talking about a tower, a closet of bricks. V'Rameiri, in the opinion of Rameir, the Amar. Rameir holds, we'll see in a moment exactly the type of structure, be allowed to deconstruct, you're allowed to take apart these bricks and go lechatchila on Shabbos. It's not like we learned in the Mishnah, I believe we have this Mishnah on Shabbos, quoted fruit, sasam if it's closed, b'niftach, and on its own, the bricks open up, on its own, you have a sealed room, and then a brick falls out, and now you can stick your hand in and get the fruit. Neitel b'makom b'chas, you're allowed to, says the Tanakama, you're allowed to, through that opening, go stick your hand in and take what you want. Rameir says, no, you know what you're allowed to do? You're allowed to even go and lechatchila, open up this brick wall and take out the fruit. What's the reason why you're allowed to open up this brick wall? Now they're smashed on a wall in Shabbos. We're talking about unmartyred, uncemented bricks. The bricks are just sitting there one on top of another. And that's when you're allowed to deconstruct them so that you get into your fruit. In our Mishnah, we're talking about these bricks which are just sitting on top of each other, therefore you're allowed to take them apart to get to your Eruv. Says Gemara 1 second, and we're going to conclude with this. V'amarav Zehira, b'yantiv amrav, v'loi b'Shabbos, it's only din in Yantif. Hachanami b'yantif. You're right, it's also only a din in Yantif. If that's true, if you lost it in the city, a ruva erev is good erev. Then beside the avad, if you lost it in the field, a ruva erev, v'bi yantiv. But if we're talking about yantiv, mali er mali sadeh, what's the difference if it's a field or a city? And the truth is, let's we have one more minute. Let's go along a little bit. We usually don't do this. Let's take a moment to go into Lamed Hey. We'll read it again next time. Says and again, we're just going straight in, so we have to come back to this. Just one last point I want to point out over here. This last Rashi in Amud Beis, Rashi tells us that there's two different ways we can learn about Rav Eliezer in the Mishnah. Let's just go with the second shot of Rashi. Rashi says, "Inami Rav Eliezer demas nisan loy ayri ela bisadeh," and who he is, Rav Eliezer of the Brisa, as we're in the middle of explaining, and that is the reason why, if you don't know where it is, you're not going to be able to get your erev because it's in the field. And again, the one thing that we learned, and we'll pick up this last part in Sunday's daf. The one thing we see over here is that we're talking about Avir, the Livni, we're talking about these bricks which are not cemented in, and that's the reason why you're allowed to deconstruct them and get your Erev on Shabbos.